Oh, goody.
Alright, what's going on everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. Happy New Year's Eve, or New Year, depending on when you're watching this. But we have a hot location to be covering here, and that is Gamma Labs. This one's going live tonight at the daily reset time. And what it does is, after turn 3, transform all cards here into the Hulk. So we're going to take a look at some decks for all different pools here to see what makes the best use of this hot location. So unsurprisingly, Zoo is going to be a very popular choice, as it gets a nice little buff from this location that really benefits from you being able to spam out a lot of small cards in the early game. So we have a pool 1 Zoo deck here. We've got a pretty standard list here for Zoo, but we do have a neat tech inclusion in the Watcher. So once this is in your hand, you can see the unrevealed locations. This is pretty nice for playing around bad locations, but more importantly, we know where the Gamma Lab will be. So we know where we want to be placing our cards in order to make sure that we get as many of them turned into the Hulk as possible to help us win the game. Other than that, just your standard Zoo stuff here, just a bunch of good 1-drops. Electra's a nice bit of removal. The other ones are good for power, especially Squirrel Girl, since we have buffs from Kazar and Blue Marvel. Chavez gives us that consistency in the early game and a big threat to slam on the final turn. And then just some other good mid-range cards like Angela, Mr. Sinister, which is obviously good with the location because 2 bodies, and Sentinel, always giving us some more stuff to play the following turn. So that is probably the best deck I would recommend for Pool 1 for this location. Let's take a look at Pool 2. Moving on to Pool 2 here, we have an upgrade for the Zoo deck. Pretty simple addition of some tech cards, the main one here being Shang-Chi. This card is going to be real popular as long as this is the hot location, as it's sometimes a free way to win the game. So either be mindful of opposing Shang-Chi's or just be packing one yourself. And this is probably a card I'd throw in a wild variety of decks. Well, this is the hot location. If you don't feel like brewing a deck specifically trying to make the most of it, just putting this card in your deck already, even if it's not built for it, should give you a chance at doing better while it is showing up more often. Other than that, we also put in armor, as we want a way to protect ourselves from opposing Shang-Chi's. So makes a lot of sense there. The rest of the deck pretty much the same. Again, you can tweak it with, any other cards you might have preferences for, but I do think this is one of the better versions of Zoo, and I do think the Watcher tech is pretty cool for this location. Moving on into Pool 3, we have our Sarah tech deck here, using a lot of the tech cards. Shang-Chi obviously going to be getting a lot of value in this one. Just a really good deck for just dropping a bunch of cards on the final turn to swing the game. I put up some gameplay with this recently, and the other nice thing about it is you can do this kind of at the beginning of Pool 3. Now, obviously, we do have some other Pool 3 cards in here, such as Mysterio and Maximus. However, I would say that the deck is super duper playable without those cards. The closest substitutions, if you're just new into Pool 3 and only have Sarah, probably be Swordmaster and just another good 2-drop. I know Star-Lord used to be one a lot of people liked running, but there are a variety of good 2-drops available, so whatever 2-drop is your preference can probably replace Mysterio. But if you do have these cards, they definitely do very well in the deck. If you want to get a feeling for this deck, I'll have a link in the description where you can check out some games with it. Next up, we have a Patriot deck here. Patriot feels like a good one to make use of the location because the Hulks are no text cards, so they actually get a boost from our Patriot. So even if the opponent has the same amount, we can boost up our power a bit. On top of that, Patriot has a lot of early game plays, so we have a lot of ways of playing into the location, whether that be Wasps, Squirrel Girl, Misty Knight, even sometimes Invisible Woman, Shocker, tossing in a Mystique that we don't have anything else to do with. There's a lot of early game here that we can toss into the location if we want. So overall, I think this is a pretty solid one, and especially because we can boost up those Hulks with our Blue Marvel, with our Patriot, if we get our Onslaught effect. And even if we do happen to get our Hulks dealt with, we can sometimes just win with the Ultron final turn. Another Sarah deck that I think will work pretty well at this location is the Sarah Surfer deck. This is another one that only uses Pool 3 cards, however it does have a few more of them than the teched out Serra version, but it also performs pretty well in my experience, and is especially good if you want an excuse to use the Silver Surfer from the most recent pass. Reminder that this card is rotating to Pool 5, so if you want to get your hands on it, you probably should do so before the end of the season, or you might be waiting a little while. I personally think the teched out version is the way to go right now, but if you want to make use of your Surfer, this is one of the better ways to do it. Another direction you can go with if you aren't into the Serra game plan or don't have access to her in Pool 3 is Captain Marvel Control. Definitely a fun reactive style of deck that is pretty good at dealing with big threats with Shang-Chi and producing some pretty big threats of its own. We have a pretty nice destroy package here, which gives us a lot of cards that we can kind of throw away into the Hulk lane early on if we want to build an advantage. And then we have kind of a flexible late game here with cards like Rescue, Captain Marvel, and Magneto. Captain Marvel especially keeping the opponent guessing what lanes we're actually playing for to win the game. Magneto kind of messing up the opponent's positioning. We have some tech cards of our own like Killmonger and Shang-Chi, who will both be great for this. Bishop benefits greatly from all the cheap stuff we're playing, and Rescue is just a really solid 4-drop in this style of deck. So if you're looking for a different control-y style direction that's less about jamming a bunch of things on the final turn and kind of controlling the pace of the game turn to turn, this one is a pretty solid option. We have here, we're rising up to Pool 5 and trying out a Darkhawk deck. This is really similar to the one that Binks ended up making, with one slight change with changing Lizard to Scorpion. I was really impressed with this deck. I think it's one of the coolest, most fun, and most powerful things you can do with this card before Zabu comes out. And it really surprised me with just how versatile of a deck it was. It's nice for the location because we have a bunch of cheap stuff here that we can kind of toss away into the location. Though you do want to be mindful about when you're dropping your Black Widow, as it is going to give them a Widow's Bite. So if you do that before the location changes, they can just get a free Hulk, so be careful about that. Other than that, we're really just trying to make a big Darkhawk, potentially copy it with Mystique. Serra enables us to do that on the final turn, which is cool. Rockslide really beefs up our Darkhawk. Wave is cool because you want to be playing your cards in the same lane a lot of the time. So a lot of times we'll get down something like, let's say, Korg or Black Widow or both. Then we get down Wave and can cheat out Odin. Now, Odin is really nuts with Black Widow and Wave because not only does it give them another Widow's Bite, but it makes all their cards cost 4. So that's going to potentially deny them a whole nother turn of drawing because they can't get the Widow's Bite out of their hand if they want to play another card. Doom is also good because it gives us something to cheat out with the Wave if we don't have the Odin, and lets us play for lockdown lanes. And then we have the disruption cards here, Iceman, Korg, and Rockslide to buff our stuff and give our opponent dead draws, and Scorpion to make their stuff smaller. Armor has a little bit of tech protecting our own stuff and making it awkward for some opposing decks. And then Serra to just get out a big flashy turn 6 to end the game, sometimes using that Darkhawk Mystique combo. So I really like this deck. I was super impressed by it, and definitely made me realize that Darkhawk was actually quite a bit better of a card than I thought he was going to be. And I think it'll be pretty solid for this location if you happen to have them. But yeah, those are all the decks that I think are going to be pretty great for this hot location. Again, it'll be popping up at a 60% appearance rate for the next 24 hours. But that is going to wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed it, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.